Good afternoon, everyone. This is Naishad coming to you from Melbourne, and this is the 230th episode of Career Care Package. A show that we started back when the pandemic started, and we are seeing the tail end of it, and we are still here. So, as one of the reason why we continue to do it, because after 5, 10, 15 years, when they put all these episodes into a museum, people can go and check it out, that this is how the world of work was in Australia during the time of pandemic. So we are actually recording the a time in the period as well. So that's what we do. Also, we and Caroline are the founders of Cards Against Insanity.
Hang on.
It's a card game for job seekers, which is really helping you stay sane when you're looking for work. And today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic. But before we start our rant, let's welcome Caroline Brown.
Thanks, Nish. And yes, we are in the middle of a blisteringly cold Melbourne day. Sorry, I got slightly distracted then. But you wouldn't think that it was actually coming into summer, which is a bit of a bugger. So, yeah, and it's fantastic to be here. And today we're talking about one of your favourite online rant topics of late. It's how to create an online brand using mainly LinkedIn for most people now without feeling like an absolute tool or behaving like a tool. Because I think there's been some things that I guess we've seen, perhaps we've done as well, to be honest, if we're being really completely truthful, that at the end of the day don't really serve people really well. And I think sometimes what happens is that you see what other people do, or there's so much of what other people do that you think that that's what you should do, and you end up making a bit of a goose of yourself. So that's what we're talking about today. And I don't know, I'm a bit scared to start with this first thing that we discuss, which is if I hit go on this niche around some of the things that really have annoyed you lately, that you've seen online. And then we're going to talk about your doodles, so to speak, that you put up online, and just talk about some of the things that I think that you can do to help, to help be more professional, get more of a genuine response and engagement that you want from people up online as well. So I'm going to hit go. Tell me what's been on your mind about people and their behavior online.
Well, finally, somebody asked this question to me, right? I was waiting.
No, but
I
you
was,
did before.
I was waiting. It's like weight being lifted off your shoulder when you are asked to say, "Give me your opinion on this," right? And I think we, obviously, between us and a few other people that I, usually, chat with them about this stuff. It's kind of common theme. It's not, nothing unusual, but still, it's going to be a weight lifted on my shoulder if I can put few things out there which I've been seeing, probably for around 6 to 12 months, and I think
Yeah.
it's increasing rapidly. And what's like the first thing that I looked at, that was oversharing stuff.
Hmm.
I see people talk about things which is so beyond understanding. People talk about stuff about relationship to professionalism and everything, which is so idealistic in nature that it just doesn't sit right. And usually it starts with their own. They a lot of the posts make everything about themselves,
Hmm.
and then making a point that, oh, this is what happened 87. I was waiting in New Delhi on the station, and I saw something, right? That's a
Mm.
story that you would tell to your grandkids or to your friends, right? Not on LinkedIn. I just find it, if you share it once in a while, that's fine, but if you consistently do the same thing over a period of time, I just feel like, what's the value it is adding to the conversation,
Mm,
to what you're up to. And what's
mm,
happening is that by sharing that, you're not serving the audience. You're not, the audience gets something, but said, hang on, but what's the value out of it for me,
mm.
right? So oversharing was one. Another one was poverty porn. And I
I
think
love
you've
that
seen
term.
that.
I don't
You,
love that term, but I think
but
it's
you've
it's
seen that,
really apt.
right? In fact,
Yeah.
in fact, maybe I came across a post a few months back shared by one of the self-appointed LinkedIn influencer.
Mm,
Talked about a poor man having a lot of books around him, and he was sewing a thong. And then
mm,
exactly the same post, word to word, I saw by somebody else, right?
mm,
And I thought, what what would prompt you to do that? Like,
mm,
literally, what's the message of it? If you want to do it, you go to places, and you'll be able to do it like 10,000 posts like that. What's the
mm.
real point here? What are you really trying to communicate here? And and that's what prompted me to do the LinkedIn influencer thing that I did, KB, that
The
I
notorious Savio post, Nish.
exactly, right. Notorious savior post, and I'm going to show you that post,
Yeah.
again here, that just demonstrates the kind of stuff that people do. So normal people would book a cab to an appointment. Driver was great and reached appointment on time. That's it. That's what happened, right? You go to McDonald's, you order something, and you get served, and you just go home, right? But a LinkedIn influencer will see this very differently, right? They would want to unearth a story out of nothing,
Mm,
right? And this is what happened. Now this is a made up thing based on what I have read a lot about. But then if you remember, KB, after I did this, I shared with you exactly similar post by somebody who has
mm,
done this, and that person received huge amount of kind of likes and comments online. And I said, what's the why would you want to take someone's picture who is disadvantaged, and you want to portray him or her in this fashion? For what? What's the real
mm,
purpose does it serve? If you want to help someone, do that,
mm.
without making a big deal out of it, right? So that's what I found, poverty porn, as I like to sort of say that,
Yeah.
it's
I
kind
was
of.
just going to say
Mm,
with Nate,
mhm.
I know you've got a few more to go,
Yeah.
Nish, but with that Savio post, it was basically, you caught a cab and the guy couldn't work as an engineer and he was driving the cab, but he was so happy about it and doing, supporting his family. And then you got out and you reflected on Savio and then you went and had a great meeting. And I think, the point is like, um, yeah, it's exploiting that situation for your own benefit, but actually you come across as a bit of a tool because did you help Savio find a job? Like, did Savio give you his permission? I know Savio is a made up character. Did Savio give you his permission? And I think those things come from, I think we need to share stories. I totally agree that we need to share
Mm,
stories. But I reckon I've got 5 good stories, really good learning stories in me. And the rest I'd have to drag up some like a scenario like a Savio and go, here's a point. And everybody can see from the very start where that story's leading because you're making a particular point out of it. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of think stories have to be something that has genuinely impacted you or genuinely affected you and you've learned a genuine lesson out of them, and that's enough, like for that story. They illustrate that point and that's enough. And really, like your point in that is like, I caught a cab. So I caught a cab. And the unfortunate thing with that is that there are a lot of skilled migrants who have engineering qualifications that we're not helping. And the better point around that would have been, I took his resume, and this actually happened with a friend of mine, who actually caught a cab. He works for the public service. The guy was an accountant. Heard his story, sent me the CV. I had a look at it. He gave him input on his CV, and he eventually got a job. Now that's a story, right? And the guy that sent me the CV didn't ask for anything in return, didn't broadcast it on social media. And that's, I mean, it is exploitation of people's scenarios when you don't actually, you just take the gold from it and don't give the gold back, basically.
Absolutely, and Emma said it's too, very true. I know if
Mm,
you're watching this, and if you got a rant like me, what really pisses you off,
mm,
on this one, please drop a comment so that at least we know that we are sharing the same burden.
mm.
Then yeah, another thing is putting your picture in every post
Yeah.
is another thing. I've seen many people who'd, I don't know, they've got a phone and they take, their pictures in every position, just like a Bollywood superstar. And then they would, along with the whole thing, it will have a picture of them and said, hang on, you've got a LinkedIn profile picture. There is nothing, you don't, it's not adding any value to
Mm,
think, right? Apart from that, you are sounding more more narcissistic than anything else,
yeah.
honestly, making it about themselves. And I understand that it's a difficult sometimes to see that you're detaching yourself and you're delivering value, and sometimes it collapses, right?
Mm,
I do understand that predicament, but those predicament are someone who is a new entrant into this game. If you've been
mm,
in this part of this game for a long period of time and then you still do that, and it just, yeah, you know what, I don't need to.
mm.
And the
Can I just
another
jump in on that one too,
yes, please.
Nish?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like Instagram. There's a certain demographic that if you follow them on Instagram, there's selfie after selfie after selfie after selfie after selfie after, and it's kind of like, I know I'm sounding old, I am old, but like, what's the point? I mean, it's like inviting somebody into your lounge room and flicking out the old-fashioned photo album with every photo is of you. Like, I don't understand. I really don't. I just,
Yeah,
again, I'm not that interesting. You're not that interesting. Well, we are. We're
yeah,
fascinating, really. But
yeah,
no, we're
yeah.
not. Like, there's things to share to open up about yourself.
Mm,
But when every post is a picture of you,
mm,
is that going to be the conversation that you're
yeah.
going to have? Is it just all going to be about you, basically?
Mm, agree. And few other things. One is the nonsensical polls that I've seen people creating it. It
Mm.
is just, it is just beyond me that you ask people that do you like Monday or not, and then you've got hundreds of people responding to it. So in my head, I'm thinking 200 people responded to it, so that's like 200 multiplied by 5 seconds, so that's 1,000 seconds have wasted in the world. Because it is, it's not someone's doing a serious research and said, look, this is what I'm doing, I'm going to ask you a series of questions because I have an intention of this, rather than just asking because I'm compelled to do it, because hey,
Mm,
I've not done any post today. How shitty of me to not do any post today. Get on to it, right? And
mm,
I think this is also partially coming from KB is this new coaches that have
mm,
emerged, right? And they've said, no, everything else you got to do content, you got to develop
mm,
content, and that's the only way for you to do that. And that really forces people to come up with some nonsensical post and quotes by Gandhi or Nelson Mandela and everything else, and know that, right?
mm,
It's nothing new into it. It's nothing that is insightful,
mm,
right? And the last thing I would add is what really, I've seen many people within our network. I've also seen it's like commenting on their own post,
mm,
because if you I'll share a diagram that I recently found. Somebody really kind of captured a visual, visually how LinkedIn algorithm works
Mm,
and how people are gaming that algorithm. As we know,
mm,
people game the algorithm, and to game the algorithm you need to have comments on your post. So that LinkedIn said, yep, that's one of the reason why people, when they write a post, then they will themselves comment on the post 5, 10 other different quotes, and then they like it,
mm.
right? So,
Yeah.
and then so that's what's really kind of helping. So you are not, you don't, you have to do it in order to game something, because
Mm,
there is no originality around it, right?
yeah. Emma's saying that's sad, commenting on your own posts, and also if you're good at what you do, your posts speak for themselves without selfies. Yes, that is absolutely true. And just going back to that niche, because I think that I'm not sure if it's still the case, but we have spoken about engagement pods, and where you put up a post and then you have a group in WhatsApp or wherever that you ask them to comment and like on the post, and you get a lot of thumbs up. Awesome post, couldn't agree more, amazing stuff, and you see the same stuff, and it artificially boosts your ranking. And so I think that thing around I need to post every day, and also do you like Monday kind of quiz post, that kind of banal content has come from that kind of behavior where you actually have to try and skip through and cut through all of that noise. And the thing about around those kind of engagement pods is that if you're truly listening to your audience and you truly want to create value and you truly want to make a connection and a relationship with someone, then you're not getting that. There's all this noise around that. You have no idea whether, who it's truly resonated with and whether that is really of value to people. You really serving the audience. So I think that's why we see a lot of the do you like Mondays? Do you love Fridays? What kind of weather do you love? Sunny or raining? It's crap, basically.
Absolutely, and that's what this is what really, and it's sad, in fact.
Mm,
It's a great platform, no doubt about it. I think we are all beneficiary of LinkedIn. I guess that a larger point that I want to make is also that we all know people who are really great at what they do.
mm,
A lot of them are not even on LinkedIn too. So it's not
mm,
that you need to be there in order to to be considered as a kind of thought leader, or considered as a trusted authority on subjects. There are so many researchers that I know, they're not part of LinkedIn. They don't consider
mm,
that as useful at all, for them, because they are so much concerned about the work that they do, and the impact that they have on work. For them it's not at all importance to have it,
mm,
on that. So that's equally important, that there's life beyond this as well,
mm,
where you got to have that consistent kind of experience of people. Like,
mm,
for example, if you meet me in person and said, if you come to me and say, no, I don't want to talk to you, right? If I do this, and then I see on LinkedIn Live, oh, Naishad is pretty approachable, I know he can, I can talk to Naishad anytime, then you'll have a very very different view of me, and very different experience of me online and in person. So I
mm,
think that consistency is also very critical, and we need to see LinkedIn as one weapon in the whole armory, rather than
mm,
considering that that's the only place
mm.
to be, to
Yeah.
be in. Yeah.
I think I mean, you can tell the people that have had a genuine impact, like done some really genuine work, and that gets taken up. They do TED Talks, for example. Um, like Brene Brown is on everybody's hot list, basically, because she's produced some work that is really quite groundbreaking, and has had everybody have that kind of aha moment. So you do see that, there's often the people that publish the books that get on the New York Times bestseller list for a reason, often. So yeah, LinkedIn is one thing
Yeah,
basically,
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
a great tool. Like, don't get me
yes,
wrong, LinkedIn's powered so much of what I've done. But if I said that if I'm nobody on LinkedIn, then I'd be a very very sad person. Just wanted to one more thing because I know we want to sort of give some value instead of just having a rant on this broadcast. But one thing that I find really interesting is that how to be, we all talk about genuineness and authenticity because that's a big buzzword. And Sharon's just commented as well. A theme in what we're saying is a yearning for authenticity. Most of us want that. We're sick of the fake stuff. Absolutely. And the thing I think that I find interesting too is that where people are one thing online, right? Sharing, happy, great life, whatever, but opposite. Their life is actually opposite to that. You're getting their show. You're getting the highlight reel of who they want to be seen as versus the actual who they really are. So, all of social media has become a platform for the highlight reel, basically. So, and I think, where you can just be more of yourself or consistently who you are. And if you're a miserable git, be a cranky person on social media, not a troll, but do you know what I mean? Like, I think you've got to be as much as possible who you are. Otherwise, if you're one thing online and then people meet you, because ultimately, you're doing stuff to build up your brand to get a job or to find clients, then that's going to be a very disappointing experience for people. And you do attract your tribe with being, I reckon, a lot more of yourself, basically.
yep, yep. Could not agree more. So, do you want to dive into
Yeah.
the diagram that I drew yesterday? Okay. All right. Let me just pull that. Something that. Okay. All right. So hopefully, this is seen. Is it okay? I need to.
Probably make it a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll do that. Yep.
Yep.
Better.
Yep. Absolutely. Can see the
Okay.
good
Yeah.
bits.
Excellent. All right. So I think I look, this is not something which is revolutionary in terms of, you know, this came about because of the way I've seen people can improve, their thinking around these issues. So one of the foundational thing is taking a deep dive into your work. That is so essential. And and those people who take deep dive into work, they talk about nuanced approaches. A lot of
Mm,
those insights are very nuanced
mm,
insights. They are not, they tell a story, but there's a lot of underlying current into that story. We've seen Sandy McDonald,
mm,
she's a fantastic storyteller. But if you read the story, there's you just feel that it comes from a place of real insight. It comes from a
mm,
place of that there's a lesson here, right? Not, no one's good or bad. We are not talking about evil, a battle between god, good and bad there. But that's what I'm talking about. So taking a deep dive into work, your work needs to be at the very center of this. That means that you got to have some backing of some, of the work that you have done, of your vocation, some results that you've produced. Those stuff is incredibly important, and I cannot stress that enough. I've seen, Caroline, a lot of people who have worked in corporate and they suddenly now become coaches. I think that's a great
mm,
transition to have. Having said that, what is equally important at this point is that, you know you still need to, because not many great players become coaches, because coaching is a very separate, it's a separate traits that you need. Not necessarily every great player who, a sports star, becomes a coach straight away. It's not possible, right?
mm,
So it's not that if you held a certain role in an organization doesn't necessarily, it's a great condition for you to do that, but you still need to produce some results in order to really test your work and say this is what I've done, and then move to the next level. So I think taking a deep dive in your work is essential.
Yeah, I think so. And also, again, if you think about stuff that we do, I mean, I've been working in this space for over 10 years, 10 to 15 years, if I count the part time stuff. And so you have sort of maybe three or four key things that you do really well, and that you can bring those insights into having done that, having, gone through that space. So that kind of deep dive into really that knowledge, you can actually tell that you've got it. Like Sandy, for example, is a great storyteller. She's been a storyteller in all of her work, and she can tell a great story. And I think she's one of the few people that can tell a great story, that something that's occurred to her from going down the beach, basically.
Absolutely.
um, yeah. So I think, yeah, taking that deep dive, and some of the things that you've got on here, I mean, they all sort of point to creating something that is really, um, empowering or powerful in that social media space. And I really like what you've got after that, which is finding your why. So, like I've seen people post up about how they arrange they're a coach, but they're posting up about how they chop their cushions, right? Like, and it's at odds with you watch it and you go, oh, okay, like I don't know why you're doing that. Like, what is it? Because you're asking people for their time as well. Do you know what I mean? You're asking people for their time and
Yeah.
their attention. So you've got to give something for that. So I think understanding why you're doing it and who you're serving is pretty critical in the whole process.
Yeah, and why is something very interesting. I know that we talked about Michelle Hogan about this why thing, if you remember that.
Mm,
And he said that there is a why police out there. That people said, okay, what's your why? It's not something that you figure it out so easily, right? Sometimes it takes months for you to find your spot over there and say, this is where I'm going to play. This is where I
mm,
really enjoy the work that I do. This is where I find real, thrill in my work. Right.
mm,
So I think that it's a constant process of you discovering layers and layers of your why.
mm,
Eventually people will get that. It will take some time, but people will get your why. And I think I can confidently say that, KB, that in last 2 years, since the time we started to do career care package shows and Cards Against Insanity, I'm slowly starting to figure out what's my why, and where do I fit in. Earlier I had a very different view. Now I have a different view about my work and how it serves everyone and what's my why. And the
mm,
important thing is the audience, if audience also get exactly what your why is, the way it should be, then I think
mm,
there's a great alignment there, and
mm,
people will start to respond to you. Start to not so much agree, but they start to consider themselves as part of your community, even though you have not spoken to them.
mm. I
Yeah.
like what you said about and another step is identifying and figuring out your strengths and values, which is part of what you've said, and in a way, it's connected into, what's your why. So I think I did watch one. I feel like a cranky cow now, but I was like, watched one guy who he talks. He's all over LinkedIn. He's got a seemingly enormous fans from all over the world, but he started to give a list of job sites that was completely different to stuff that he was talking about. And I don't know, like, it's so off his. You could just go to Google for that. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I want to know the top 10 job sites in Australia and I'm coming to Australia, I'll go to Google. Google will tell me.
Agree. Yeah.
because it's also an interesting point about this as well. Like, for example, the algorithm on LinkedIn isn't set up like the algorithm on Google. You go to Google to find out information, what's the weather like in Dubai, or the time in Singapore, or the top 10 restaurants in a city I'm going to go to. But the algorithm on LinkedIn is, it's not that. It's not a search-based algorithm. So in a way, you've got to understand who your audience is, and be giving information that's useful to that audience that they're coming to you for, because that post would have just disappeared amongst the whole bunch of, other stuff that's online,
Mm,
basically.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely agree with you. Now, I can't see the fourth step. I need to look at that. What's your distinct or determine the problem you solve?
Yeah,
That's equally important, right? So you kind of got to find out, what's the problem that you solve.
yeah.
And that's, I think we all ultimately solve a problem either for our employers, or either we solve a problem for our clients or stakeholders. And I think languaging the problem you solve is incredibly important as part of
Mm,
your branding. As you start to build your brand.
mm,
I remember when I ask this question to people, that what does the receptionist, which problem does the receptionist solve?
mm,
And most of the people say yes, he or she would, you know screens the call, this and that, takes the mails, stationary orders and stuff like that. I say, what's the problem does it solve? In my view, she solves a problem called office productivity.
mm,
So she makes everybody else more productive,
mm,
because he or she makes sure that only the right calls get through, so that the people who are working, they can continue to remain on focused on the work rather than getting
mm,
distracted by unnecessary phone calls.
mm,
So that's the problem that he or she or the position itself solves. So I
mm,
think I think having a real understanding of the problem you solve, is very important. We are not talking about solving a problem as in that I increase, kind of, 50% efficiency because I screen the calls. We are not talking about that. We are just, don't quantify that, but start to figure out the problem you solve, and also, language it in a way that the clients can understand, or your
mm,
stakeholders can understand. Oh, right, okay, now I get that, what you're trying to say.
mm,
Yeah, that's my favorite thing.
mm. What's your distinct perspective? Again, I think you end up with a certain level of expertise in a particular area that is going to be really interesting to people. And I also think that there's so much echo chamber of
Mm,
stuff that, if you're the career coach with the mohawk, and you have kind of like that sort of graffiti artist persona, it's like, and you want to attract that kind of client, then that's your unique perspective, and that's great. And I think, we really are in this sort of blended society where you cannot tell one person from the next,
mm,
because again, you're in that echo chamber of copying what everybody else does, and just, repackaging it slightly. So really trying to find what you actually believe in and
mm,
truly believe to be true is
mm.
something that will help you cut through the noise as well. And you
Absolutely.
hear a lot of factoids, opinions put up as fact that actually haven't been tested in the market too, about the rights and the wrongs to do stuff. Um, One of my bugbears at the moment is like the wellness influencers that post lists of things to do to feel happy, right? And I looked at one of these, and it was a list of like 10 things. And I thought every single thing on that list takes years to achieve. Absolutely. Like, for example, accept yourself, right? I mean, everybody's a work
No,
in
why
progress
not?
for
Yeah,
years, right? How am I going to go, okay, tick that item off the list? That takes, honestly, that's
it's
why
a
we have
practice.
a psychologist, a counselor, a psychiatrist that takes years. So if I see one more love yourself for who you are, and then another list 10 things telling me things I need to do to improve myself, I'm going to go crazy.
And sorry, KB, can I interrupt another thing that I've seen people starting to talk about self-care. Right?
Oh,
Self-care was fine, it's understandable. But when people started to twist that terminology to self-love, it is
mm,
just, I don't think so people get that. Like, that half half of the time or most of the time, you're right in saying that it's a practice. Accept
mm.
yourself. Yeah, that's great. You know what? Yeah, I have accepted myself 5 minutes in
But here
24
are 10
hours.
things you need to do to improve that, right? Like, and honestly, look, I know that I realize the irony of saying this while we're giving people kind of like a list here. Um, but I suppose we're trying to illustrate, here's me defending that. We're trying to illustrate a process, right?
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah,
So,
yeah. All right, and the next one is the audience. I think, who do you serve? I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
mm,
Figure out who do you serve. That what kind of lot of in coaching, you kind of create an avatar of people. Tell us about this person. So he or she should be 30 to 40 years of age. Okay, what kind
mm,
of roles is she or he doing? What is the emotional state there? So you're kind of creating an avatar of people who do you serve the most, and then you can kind of speak in the language that they can understand.
mm,
That's I think equally important. But you can start from a broad one and then slowly starting to zoom in. Trying it out is also equally important in these circumstances.
mm,
Sometimes some things that you talk about stick to people, sometimes it doesn't stick to people. Sometimes it will fall flat. Sometimes just gets a huge engagement, which reminds me the Mercedes story that I put online, which was just like a social experiment, KB.
mm.
Not, I think few people got the joke. I was talking to somebody in the morning, and he said, "You got a great car now," and I said, "You didn't get the joke, did you?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Did you read it through? Last two lines, which said that finally I took a picture with a Mercedes and the owner did not mind it." He said, "Oh, that's hilarious, man." I said, "Yeah, that's right, and that's it. It's perception, right? What we are doing on social media is that we are just managing our perception to
Mm,
people, and suddenly this post has gone just bonkers, right? I
mm.
still get a lot of people liking on it, commenting on it, but i I just find it just bizarre that
I think there's
uh,
a thing around this niche,
mm,
like there's two probably more things going on, but one, people like it to support you, right? So they haven't really read it. Um, Other people like it because they feel like they should give something back to you because again, that's around the support type thing. So yeah, I mean, and yeah, people. I guess it's that time poor thing. Like how much of that post have they actually read? So are they just following that? Are people just following that kind of? I need to be seen to be a good person. So that's the other thing about being seen to be a good person by giving you the thumbs up type thing.
mm,
So
mm, mm,
yeah, it's an
mm.
interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I guess it's like, I don't know. I mean, I thought that post was absolutely hilarious. It's like, oh no, she's in front of a Mercedes. What happened?
But then you commented on it that did you take a ride, and I said no, the owner said no.
And then the
Owner said,
police
take a
came.
picture. Take a picture, that's fine, but don't ask me for the keys, man. Okay,
Yeah.
you can take a picture with it. Okay, but it's funny, from that. But the second thing is what we talk about in this triangle is the communication strategy, and that's where the whole idea of content to how do you what will you talk to people about, and it's a raft of things. You can
Mm,
do many things. You can go and pick up a volunteering stuff around what you do. to you can become a tutor or a volunteer mentor in an association to further your cause. You can
mm,
start a podcast, you can do YouTube videos, you can do, the way I do, doodling that I do to convey a topic. So you can do many things over there. And I
mm,
think the thing to consider over there is that where is your audience.
mm,
That's equally important to consider, and
mm.
then create
Yeah.
something around that really sticks to them. Now, when it comes to sticking to them, what will stick to them will time will tell you. Your trial and error. KB, my journey of and your journey with LinkedIn started also way back. I know you appeared on Fox News, I think 10 years back, with the CEO of Australian operations of LinkedIn, and talking about executive brand 10 years back. So this is like, way back, right?
Mm,
And you know you know you you've been part of this, the whole evolution of LinkedIn as a participant for a longer period of time, right? And what I want to say is that, you know even, it takes a while for you to figure out what do you want to communicate to them, where, what's the style of communication, what do you want to share to people about, whether do you want to talk about in a post form, whether you want to talk about writing a blog post, whether you want to talk about in a short video and things like that. But I
I
think it's
think
an
if we
important.
go, I think if we go back to some basics for people, Niche, because a lot of our audience are people generally looking to find work, or all of the wonderful career practitioners that have been on our show that are commenting now, Sharon and Emma, and a whole bunch of other people as well. Um, but it's kind of like, okay, if we give people this advice around you need to build your brand, right? And being on LinkedIn is one way to do it, and posting on LinkedIn is one way to do it. But if you where do you start? Like, that's what I think people really struggle with. And my
Yeah.
thoughts around that is
Mm.
exactly what you've got here in terms of, the number one point is the one that really resonated with me, or there's a few points, but take a deep dive into your work, find out why you're doing, think about who you serve, and try and solve a problem. What's the problem that you solve with your work? So if you're stuck about where to start, a good meaty tip based on your experience that is a shortcut for people, or a great way
Mm.
to have impact with something, or a great insight, that's enough. Like, people
Mm.
will respond to that. The right people will actually
Yeah.
respond to that. And I think, how often to do it. Once a week,
Just
jump
depends.
online for 10 minutes a day and look at what your network is doing, and genuinely interact and support them. um, because I think also the people that, we go back to that kind of um, interaction that you had with the Mercedes post, was that people that weren't reading it, right? And it becomes obvious when you're not reading stuff. Like, if you're
Mm.
in one of those engagement pods where people just give you the thumbs up and good
Without even
post and
knowing.
whatever,
Yeah.
that goes out in your feed, all of that stuff. So um, I think you've got to go back to that kind of
Yeah.
genuine helpfulness, genuine interaction, because that's the reason that you're on this platform, and
Agree.
wanting to build your network and
Absolutely.
contribute to your network. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And fine. Look, I was always interested in visual communication, and this is something that I picked up last year during the that I started to learn visual graphics and just drawing stuff, right? And a lot of the work that I have done, which I give credit to somebody whose original work it is, but
Mm,
I'm slowly starting to develop my own ideas around, how do I communicate this better, what do I do, and it is starting to get people starting to get excited about
mm,
this stuff. I think a couple of weeks back I drew a networking paradox like this, and somebody from Canada, she's a careers practitioner like me, works in a university, and she approached me and said, I want to have just a chat with you about what you do. I'm just very curious about that. And I think that's what really, and I enjoy that, because this really kind of appeals to not only people who are looking for work, but also our own fraternity,
Mm,
people who work in our space, because I also want to be recognized by other career practitioners too. I just
mm,
don't want to be just recognized. I want to partner and collaborate with career practitioners. I don't want, this is not like what do you say, a competition to that someone's going to snatch away my clients if I
mm,
do this. I'm not in that.
mm,
I think through this KB, we have demonstrated that collaboration is incredibly important. How many
mm,
guests that we had on our show? 100 and I don't know, 100, more than 150,
mm,
160. A lot of people work in the same space that we do,
mm,
but it's the act of collaboration that has also
mm,
worked. So find it. And one tip that I think I've given previously too is that there is a website called answerthepublic.com,
mm,
and you can go and put any keyword of your that you find it within your workspace, and it just gives you what are the questions people are having about that particular keyword. And there you
mm,
go, you can get 10 different kind of posts that you could do. You can write blog posts, you can do videos, you can do a lot of stuff around that.
mm.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that might be the end of our rant, Nish. I think we've outstayed our welcome yet again. So
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everybody, coming along.
don't forget,
Sharon, Emma,
buy the cards. Hang on.
and buy the cards. We are
Yes.
increasing the price, shortly. So if you want to gift someone, gifting someone is also an amazing idea. So please go ahead and buy the cards and make someone's life. Okay.
A whole lot happier.
Absolutely.
And
So we
yours
will see
if
you
you're
next
gifting them.
there. We will see you next Friday. Who we don't know who's coming along, but there'll be somebody amazing here
Yeah,
next
someone better
Friday.
than us. So you can guarantee that.
Exactly. That's the idea. Okay. Excellent, everyone. Have a
All
great
right.
weekend.
Don't forget to follow the hashtag Cards Against Insanity Career Care Package. Please go and subscribe to our YouTube channel so Nation and I can become online millionaires without doing any work. Is that it? Is that the plan?
That's the idea, KB.
Okay. And yeah, we'll see you all next week.
All right. Bye, everyone.